I think you bring up a really important point, and that is there are all these tools out there. And what you need to do, in my opinion, is sample a bunch of tools. And at
Yes.
different points in time, different things and different combinations will work. You're not stuck with just one way of doing things. And then when it doesn't work, you're lost. I think by assembling a variety of disciplines, you really can address whatever is going on at a point in time.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I did. I mean, I talk about in my book that for me, I did all of these things. I read, I listened, I journaled, I meditated, I started to move my body because I had just gotten to that point, right? That pivotal moment that I talk about, I was sitting in a hospital room, kind of thing, with thoughts that hadn't gone through my head before that were now there, and I could not shake them. So, that was that pivotal moment when I said, okay, what are you going to do? Which road are you taking?
Lisa, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Hi, Pat. Thank you so much for having me, and I'd be happy to. So, my story is of a woman who entered menopause, and due to some personal life stress, um, those stresses amplified my menopause symptoms and set me on a downward spiral. It was really a huge bump in my road. I suffered from massive depression. I had weight gain. I had all my symptoms were so amplified until I realized that I had to take control. I had kind of reached a pivotal moment. And I said, which way am I going here? So I decided to work on myself, my inner self, and that gradually compounded one thing on top of the other to now becoming the menopause queen, writing a book, writing a journal, all specifically for women in menopause.
I think it's interesting that menopause for you, and I think for many people, for many women, triggered a lot of inner work. And I think that menopause can actually be a regenerative time because maybe for the first time in your life, it forces you to be in your body and look at your life rather than running around and taking care of everybody else.
I totally agree. And that's part of what happened to me. I was, taking care of everybody else. And I thought I was taking care of me enough, but I really wasn't, not the inner me, if we all understand what that means. And that means that the inner me is about self love. Because during this time, myself and many others I know as well, we seem to become living outside of ourselves and get caught up in what's going on outside, the symptoms, the stress, the magnification. And we forget about the inner us, and the fact that we still need to remain who we are, love ourselves no matter what we look like, and put some things into practices that encourage and feed that self-love during this time so that we can just thrive and live through it as just another journey, another phase, another step, instead of this terrible sentence, that many women think it is.
Well, I think that people, none of us like change. Everybody likes the status quo given their choice. Well, most people like the status quo given their choice, let's put it that way. But navigating change is never easy. And I think menopause is a particularly difficult change because your body's changing hormonally, it's changing physically, it can screw with your mind. I mean, it's all encompassing and it lasts forever.
That's, I was in perimenopause for 10 years and had no idea
What were your
until
symptoms in
now I realize it. Sorry, go ahead.
Now, what were your symptoms in perimenopause, and how did they
Perimenopause.
shift when you were in full-blown menopause?
So around 38, and oddly enough, I know this to be true. Sometimes life events can trigger early.
Hmm.
early peri or early menopause. In some women's case, it might be, cancer or health issue and that kind of thing, or a life event. In my case, it was a life event. We had something go on within our family that, was kind of traumatic. So, and that was when I was around 38. And it was then that I noticed all of a sudden I was getting a little thicker around the top. I was gaining a few pounds, not able to lose it. I started to notice a little bit of, I was a little bit more emotional, and things like that. Um, so after a little while, I tried some herbal supplements and things like that, and they seemed to kind of keep it, a little at bay. But this lasted for 10 years for me. I was in perimenopause till I was about 47, and that's when I hit full menopause, when everything, stopped, so to speak. Um, and and then there was more life stress in life, and then it kind of got worse from there for about 5 years.
Stress is a killer for all of us at any stage in life. I think one of the things I take, at least from this life journey, is learning to manage stress.
Absolutely. Totally agree. So some of the things that I incorporated in my life, the tools that I started to use would help lower that stress, right? And once I did lower that physical stress, I was able to start growing again and feeling better emotionally, right?
Mhm.
And then once I was feeling a little better emotionally, I was able to start working on physical, and then the physical started to kind of, it's that compound, right?
Yeah.
Because I've often said that during this time I discovered, gap, or I saw a gap, and that was one of the reasons why I decided to write my book, was because we have medication, right? Whether we choose to do the hormone replacement therapy, there is dietary, um, and the physical aspect, but then there's the mindset. And that was kind of the big pivotal moment when I really started to work on the mindset, which included that inner work.
Mhm.
um, that's when the shift started to really happen. And I was able to then start putting additional things into place, doing the proper exercises that and I realized I didn't know that I was doing the wrong ones, you know. And then things just started to feel better. I started to look better. I did start to drop some of the weight, emotions, my hormones even started to raise up a little bit when I was doing the proper things. But the first key thing was getting, a handle on that stress.
What did you do for stress management?
First off, I kind of went back to kind of my roots. I've
Mhm.
been a gratitude practicer since, the mid 2000s, when The Secret came out, right? And started practicing them, but I hadn't really realized that I hadn't evolved in it. I was just doing the same old thing. So things had kind of got to a point where, if it was stale, so to speak. And then, when life throws you those little curveballs, it became more difficult to handle. So then I just kind of started to fall, off the wagon, kind of thing. And so I kind of went back to my roots and started reading books again that were inspirational, whether it's from Rhonda Byrne or others. Um, and that was the first step. And then that kind of started me going. And I found a community, and I started listening to solfeggio frequencies, that were uplifting, and journaling, and the proper way, how I wanted my life to be. And one of the key things I did at this time was I started to meditate. I hadn't really been a big meditator before. And what I mean by that is, because people have different views of, or wonder, of what meditation exactly is. It can be as simple, and it was for me at first, for listening to that specific music and just calming myself down,
Mhm.
right? It calmed the body, calmed the nervous system, which calmed the cortisol, and step by step by step, right? Calming that body down. But the meditation was really, when I included that, that was really the pivotal moment that things started to increase, evolve, get better. and that was the key thing, that was that self-love that brought into that self-love, that I started to visualize, hey, I want to see myself in my bikini again. You know what I mean? I'm seeing myself active, and I'm doing this all while I'm in that just calm state, right? Just when your body is calm, think, you know what, this is the way I want to be. I saw myself symptom free, kind of thing. And I don't know, they call, the universe or whatever, start to respond.
I'm a big fan of meditation, so let's go there. What was it about meditation, do you think, that really started to shift things for you? What was your experience with it?
I started to listen to specific ones, that I started to initially just, kind of search YouTube. First, it was like the solfeggio frequencies kind of thing, but then, I kind of got into Bob Proctor, and my
Mhm.
favorite one even now is his abundance meditation. Because in that particular meditation, he asks you to visualize to see yourself. So that was kind of a stepping stone into move into additional ones. Um, I love one now that's by Marissa Peer, and it's about. In fact, I listened to it this morning about my body being a wellness making machine. My
Hmm.
body does wellness, only wellness, always wellness. And you
Now you
can
bring
focus that in different areas too. I want my, and I did, I want my hormones to balance. I want my estrogen to increase. I want my digestion to be better.
Now you mentioned visualizations, and I've had some personal experiences with visualizations that are just amazing. Probably 15 or 20 years ago, I did a series of visualizations with somebody, very strong visualizations, where you create the environment, you can smell the air, you feel the temperature, the wind, everything. And one of them really sticks with me. It was a meditation for energy. And
Oh,
to this day, I can drop into that visualization. I can still feel it, and it brings me energy. It's just amazing.
I would love to hear more about that separately. But that is fantastic. I have I learned how to do many, many years ago, like 27, 28 years ago, the Silva mind control method.
Uh-huh.
And I wondered, could I incorporate that with meditation as we know it today, kind of thing? Because you go into different the stages, the alpha, the beta, and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I think it's a form of meditation, really, because and it's relaxation. You're so I started to counting down from 25, 50, or whatever, to help me get to that calm state. But while I'm listening to, whether it's the frequency, I prefer guided meditations.
Mhm.
Just because during this time in my life, I had one of my symptoms was focus and memory and things like that. So I find the guided meditation is just works better for me than just listening to something. And I just combined the two, and just I don't know, it just seemed to it felt good. It helped me with that, like you say, that visualization. Because one of the tools you use in the Silva mind control is you actually picture, like on a movie screen, kind of in front of you. And there's some people that say, you see yourself on that screen, and there's others that prefer to watch the screen. Kind of, if we know the difference, whether you're in the movie or you're watching the movie.
You mentioned sound. I'm gonna totally blow the pronunciation of this. Solfeggio? Was it?
Solfeggio, yeah.
Solfeggio.
What is it? Solgeggio. Solfeggio. No,
Solfeggio.
Solfeggio, sorry. Solfeggio.
No, I find that really interesting. I've interviewed some people involved with sound and sound healing and just music in general, audible, uh, tapes and things like you're talking about. Sound is energy, and I think that there is a great deal of healing possible in sound, whether it's just quieting your mind or it may extend way beyond that.
Absolutely. They're exactly that. Like you say, the sound or sound waves, which are frequencies.
Yeah.
So there are different frequencies of the solfeggio music that can help with different things, whether it's relationships, self-love, stress. Then as you get into it more, you can even kind of get to that higher. There are frequencies that bring you to the higher level, kind of heightened awareness as well. And I play around with all of them, kind of thing, depending what's going on in my life at the time. Am I starting to feel stressed about something? Do I need to work on my relationship? Or relationships? What do I want to come into my life right now? And I will choose the frequency of music depending on what my goal is for that day.
I think you bring up a really important point, and that is there are all these tools out there. And what you need to do, in my opinion, is sample a bunch of tools. And at
Yes.
different points in time, different things and different combinations will work. You're not stuck with just one way of doing things. And then when it doesn't work, you're lost. I think by assembling a variety of disciplines, you really can address whatever is going on at a point in time.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I did. I mean, I talk about in my book that for me, I did all of these things. I read, I listened, I journaled, I meditated, I started to move my body because I had just gotten to that point, right? That pivotal moment that I talk about. Um, I was sitting in a hospital room, kind of thing, with thoughts that hadn't gone through my head before that were now there, and I could not shake them. So that was that pivotal moment when I said, okay, what are you going to do? Which road are you taking? And I had a lot to live for, so I chose the obviously the upper path, and started to work my way back. And with the help, I want to be clear, I didn't do this, on my own kind of thing. There were, therapists and all that kind of stuff, but and I'm not sorry, I'm not knocking therapy in every way, but I want to say that once I committed myself and started doing this inner work, um, and actually a big part was finding the right community of like-minded people. That was huge, because then you're surrounded by it, right? You're surrounded by, and that's what I did. I surrounded myself with all these positive, affirmations, the whole bit, and that's how I was able to work my way back to now being the queen.
Was, was
But it
there
was a process, definite process.
yeah, everything's a process, I think. Was there a tangible, community that you hooked into, or was it more spread out and amorphous?
It was a tangible community that I found. I had been, it's a Facebook community. I had been on one that was specifically for, menopause. It was supposed to be menopause support. But and nothing against that group. They were wonderful, as far as there were many, I believe over 150,000 women in this group. But it did turn out it was organized by a menopause business, so to speak, that offered menopause coaching and counseling, which
Mhm,
is all fabulous and great. Um, but I found that women were still struggling as much or more than me. So it really wasn't helping me, right?
mhm,
And then I happened to watch a podcast by somebody that I follow on Instagram. She did an interview with, I will tell you who, her name is Kathleen Cameron. She did an interview with Kathleen Cameron, and what Kathleen said, she is a student of Bob Proctor.
mhm,
She worked with him, was before he passed, and what she said just resonated with me. Having listened to Bob as well, his meditation, and so I looked her, grew up on Facebook, and joined. You can join that community for free, and then later I became part of a little paid community kind of thing, because I wanted more, and that was another key thing that I did. And that community had nothing to do with menopause. Just I was with like-minded people who were thinking the same way I did, who wanted to live a better life, who, and it has just been great. I've since, my husband and I have taken a course of hers, and continue in that community, in that energy, and it is really helped me even now to be starting to form my own community, just for menopause women who want to think about it in this way, who want to leave all that negativity behind,
Mhm.
and and um, and focus on all the good things that are going on and all the good things that are about this life, you know, um, and just help people to move forward.
Well, I think it starts to boil down to conscious choice.
Absolutely, yes. Exactly. Yes. You always have the choice in that. The blogs, posts, and even in my book, that is the key thing. And that's what you realize. It's like, you know what? I have a choice here. And that's what I realized, right? Sitting in the hospital room, it's like, okay, I have a choice here, right? you know. So and it's a choice I make every day. And it's a choice I've made every day since then, right? How am I going to think, behave, act, speak, and it does all boil down to that love. You're acting with love, you're speaking with love, you're thinking with love, all that kind of thing. And it might sound silly, but it really does make a huge difference in your life, just to.
Oh, it does, and I think that as you make every time you make that choice,
Yeah.
your choice muscle, if you will, gets stronger, and it becomes more
Yes.
and more embedded in you, so it becomes a natural reaction. You can move your mindset any place you want, and why not move it towards love, towards a positive place? It will not only change you, but it'll change the world around you.
And that's exactly it. But, the funny thing is we don't realize it. We don't think about it. That's why I said before, especially this time, and this is all from my own experience as well, right? Um, just all the outside things that are coming at you, life, your job, whatever, right? And the symptoms on top of that. It just, you know, it can be a real mess.
It's
So
overwhelming, and you feel lost.
it is. Exactly, exactly. So when I learned that I could make that choice, you know what I mean? Or came to the realization, it's like, hey, you've always had a choice. Then you become aware, right? You're aware, and then you're kind of living yourself in awareness of that. So you kind of actually stop. During the day, I will stop myself, and if my mind even starts going down kind of that negative path, and go, okay, whoa, 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 whoa. All right, what can I find that's good about that situation? Because as
Mhm.
we're going through things, I mean, we've all had things going on, and it's going, oh my God, why is this happening to me? And we just get stuck in that, and we can't see the good in it. I've had a few things that I still have yet to figure out what the good thing, or what the lesson learned, was supposed to be from that. But it isn't. I just know that it was in there somewhere. I was supposed to learn something. I was supposed to evolve from it, and live a better life in some way, because of that situation. And when we do that, it really, it's a happy place.
Yeah, I mean, one of my daily mantras is, "What can I learn?" And
Yeah.
I think that when you go from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "Why is this happening for me?" you
Yes.
can start to find the threads of wisdom and the lessons you need to learn personally in almost any situation.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's what, and part of it is kind of in that love, and loving yourself. It include, because how we love ourselves um, interprets how we love other people,
Mhm.
right? How we treat ourselves, how we treat other people, personal relationships, friendships, whatever. So when you're putting that energy out to the world, right? It's so much easier, if you will. It just is, life flows a little better. You kind of, you have to, you learn to let things roll off you a little bit more. You let
Yeah.
people, you learn to let people, like with Mel Robbins, right?
Mhm.
Let them, let people do whatever they're going to do, right? It doesn't have to affect you. You don't have to let them affect you. You just, you need to worry about you, right?
The only thing you control is yourself, if you're lucky, and if you
Absolutely.
work at it.
Yes.
So
And
forget
that's
about
that
everything
choice.
else.
Yeah, that's that choice, right? That awareness, that choice, and saying, okay, because we've all been there. We've all done places like, oh my God, what did I say that for? What did I do that for? You know, that's all good. I mean, that's, we're human. We're human. Or those, depending how spiritual you are, you would say, I'm in my human. When we're behaving like that, oh, my human's coming out again. Kind of thing. And it's like, okay, let's back up that, and let's get on the right track. And oh, I'm sorry I said that.
I think we act inappropriately and like jerks so that we can have compassion when other people do.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So,
Of all the lessons you've learned going through menopause, what do you think are the 3 key ones that you'd wanna pass along to people?
the first is that self love. Start with loving yourself first, because, like I said, you can't love anybody else before you love other people. Secondly, is make sure you are patient with yourself.
Mm,
Give yourself that grace, because it can be a difficult time, and it can take a while for us to realize that the self-love is what we need to do, kind of thing. And thirdly would be to find something that gives you joy, and focus on that, because those three things together are a recipe for a wonderful, beautiful, the life you deserve, the life you should live, to be your queen, to unleash your inner queen.